What's up, guys? Hades here. Today is an exciting day. It's update day, and Anubis is here. If you haven't seen him yet, here he is in all his glory. He looks so good. I am very impressed with this design. I am already in love with him. I love everything about him. I'm going to deep dive into him, giving you my predictions where he's going to go. I'm going to put him in the tier list. I'm going to talk about all his strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to have a good time. So, right off the bat, I don't want to put the tier list yet. I will plug it in at the end of the video. But we need to compare him to get a sense of his power level, right? So, he's a little bit like Bjorn, and he's a little bit like Poseidon, and I'll show you why. You convert your physical defense into physical attack. We'll dive into that in just a bit, but that is a huge important thing to think about. You summon Deadly Sand, increasing the damage taken by all enemies by 6%, which increases to 20%, and inflict a bleed effect on all of them, dealing physical damage every 3 seconds for 9 seconds, so you do it 3 times, 150. So the total is 450%. Now, he's doing tick damage, right? And Poseidon does tick damage. Well, let's see how much Poseidon does in terms of damage. We have him here, and his tick damage lasts the same, 3 seconds every 9 seconds, but it does 240%. It's so much more, and he has an upfront 400%. So he's not a big damage dealer, and we already know this. It tells us right here, he's a defense immortal. Like, he's not meant to be a damage dealer, but he doesn't not do damage. Like, this is a pretty significant amount of damage. Then you also have to consider the fact that, well, he's boosting his own damage and everyone on his team's damage by 20%, which is nothing to scoff at. Now, he's also very similar to Bjorn, and we need to look at Bjorn as well to kind of just get a gauge on power levels. Now, Bjorn does almost exactly the same thing. He increases the damage taken by opponents on the Scorched Earth, and I believe he boosts the damage on his side plus the one in front, and I believe it's 3. But then he also gives you lifesteal and resilience. Now, I don't have Bjorn very high on my list. I have him B tier. He kind of just fits the shadow meta. He's not amazing. He's not flexible. I wouldn't put him in a lot of other teams. But I also have Poseidon in the S tier for attackers. So, but he's not quite an attacker either. So where does he fit, right? Well, we're going to have to look at a few more things. The next thing I want to look at is his physical defense into physical attack. Now, you can click here in the attributes, and when they're level 1, you get their base attributes. Now, his physical defense is 282, and you go, well, I don't know, does that look high? Does it look low? Well, it's his highest stat, but the way you really look at this is you look at other defense shieldmen, like Trajan at level 1, 193 defense, and Anubis has 282. This is huge, like astronomically huge. And then we can have some more comparisons because I don't have a lot of mine leveled. Shieldman defense level 1, 236. Bjorn has quite a bit, but not even close. Ragnar level 1, 225, not even close. YSS 213, not even close. So he's in a league of his own in terms of physical defense. Now, it goes further. Energy regen, 110. I don't know, Hades, is that a lot? Yes, that's a lot. When we talk about fast immortals, we think about fire, right? One of the fastest in the game, woo, 120. That's like super high is 120. So let's go back and look at those defense immortals that I don't have leveled. 88, 88, 88, and you kind of start to see a theme here, and then we'll do one more with Trajan, who's fire, who should be a bit higher, because most of the fire are high. So 110 is very high. Like, I'm shocked how high this is, and I'm also shocked at how high his defense is. So now we know he's top tier statistically. We already know who he's similar to. He kind of is much better than Bjorn in the things he does, but not quite as good as Poseidon, a main attacker. Let's talk about his synergies. Now, why I have Loki here is because he applies a bleed. for 9 seconds. And, well, let's go look at Loki. Loki has this little effect at the end. If they're bleeding, the chance to confuse is 25% higher. So you can already see synergies here. Having Loki plus Anubis on the same team is going to make a big, big difference. Now, I also said he synergizes with backline carries, and the reason for that is Athena's S tier, and she's S tier by a mile, by herself. I think it's hard to replace Athena with Anubis. There is a world where that could happen, but I don't see it being very likely. So you're going to have Anubis and Athena in the front most likely, which means you need a backline carry to be dealing the damage. So you're going to need something like Loki, which we just talked about, or you're going to need Himiko or whatever you're kind of in. But he's quite flexible because he's a chaos, so you can kind of do what you want with that. And the third thing I have for synergies is Holy Dragon, and this might be one of the most important things. Holy Dragon has an effect that might just make him super broken. And this is one of the big factors that I have in my a big factor into my tier list. Now, once you have the dragon leveled up and it's at 75 bonus every 1%, you are increasing your attack and defense by 75%. And then if you go back to his skill, it's just it almost doesn't make sense how good this sounds. His defense is turned into his attack. So his attack is going to be through the roof while his defense is going through the roof, because he's going to get bonus defense and attack from the Holy Dragon, and they're just going to stack and scale on each other, and it sounds too good to be true. Skills. Few kind of mentions. Executioner is a possibility. It's probably not going to work, and it's probably just going to be better on someone else. But he can use it technically, and there's a chance it might have a working theory there. This one I'm not super excited about, but you know, it's there. There's a reason for it. Attack and defense. This is the new one. I have it here in English, and it says after the battle starts, there's a 60% probability of causing physical damage to all enemies, and this goes up to, this is level 1, it's 400% at level 8 every 6 seconds, and increasing one's own physical defense by 100% at max rank for 6 seconds. Now, the number of seconds you increase your defense is a little bit on the low side, but it probably doesn't matter all that much. This is going to synergize with him perfectly, and it's just a obvious combo. They released them at the exact same time. Very clearly they want the two to go together. Now, something else I found was memory defense, and this is an interesting one to look at, because a lot of things might sound good, like physical shield, but it decreases the damage you receive. It doesn't increase your damage. And same thing with something like Oaken Guard. It reduces physical damage you receive. It doesn't increase your physical defense. Now, here is a skill that if either you're holding it, because he's a defender, or a support is holding it, and he's the most damaged, you're going to get a chance to get that 10% physical and magical defense increase. So this is another spot you can get 10% increase. So things to think about for sure. Now, they also showed his artifact, and it says the deadly sandstorm increases the damage taken by the enemy with the highest losses by an additional 10%. So what that means is he's boosting the damage you deal to all of them by 20, but one of them, that's the highest losses, you'll be dealing 30% extra. So you get that little extra boost to whoever you have done the most damage to, which just makes him that much better. Not a super required artifact, but still is just any bonus is a nice bonus. Now, we've talked about a lot of the goods. We need to talk about the bad. Now, the uptime on attack and defense I talked about is only 6 seconds, and his ultimate's 9 seconds. So the uptime's not super high, but that might be okay because his energy regen is so high. So we'll kind of see how those kind of shake out. ultimate can be cleansed by Theodora. It is a dot over time ability. It should be able to be cleansed by Theodora, so that's going to be definitely a weakness, and Theodora is very relevant in the meta, so you can't just ignore the fact that you're only going to get partial value from this ability. And then who does he replace, right? The meta has been cemented for quite a long time. Every Mega Whale has this exact march. Our KVK we just had, the top like 12 players had almost identical marches with the exact 4 heroes. He doesn't replace Poseidon because Poseidon does all the damage in this team. And you can't replace Athena or all the healing gets crushed by wound. You need Athena to make this team work. So if he's good enough, he might warp the meta. Or if he's not good enough, he just doesn't fit into a main team and he becomes a strong hero for a second squad, but not actually breaking through the meta. So all of these things combined, I'm going to give him an aggressive, yet I think well-deserved, like late kind of S tier. Let me make these the same color. More like this. I think he's going to be better than these heroes in the A tier. I think by quite a significant margin. But I don't think he's going to be better than Athena. Like, I could almost put him in his own tier between A and S. I think he's going to be very good. I think all the Mega Whales are going to pick him up and find a good use for him. I think when you look at a report, he's going to probably do 20 million damage. Right now, Athena does little to no damage. He's easily going to be a good swap if you don't need the wound. But that's kind of my breakdown. I do think he will be very, very strong. All signs point to him being strong. His synergies are strong. There's a few new teams with Loki carries that might come into meta, and he kind of makes that relevant again, and you don't need Blade Vortex. So I think he's going to be very, very good. If you are a Mega Whale, I do highly recommend getting it. You're going to probably regret not getting it. But yeah, I hope you guys like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.